Hey guys, what's going on? This is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. And today I want to talk about a different topic that we don't normally talk about and you don't see any on my page, for example. But before we get to that, please like, subscribe, and make some comments down at the bottom after you watch the video on your experiences with this particular training modality. So today what we're going to talk about is electrostimulation. Now, a little background on me is I was introduced into Electro Stim in my college era from 1999 to 2005, getting my undergraduate and master's. What I started to realize is as I was reading a lot of different books was there were some studies and some articles talking about electrostimulation, especially Russian stim, and its advantages on training. Well, I figured, since I was already working out really hard, maybe this would be a way I could passively recover. So the first time that I was ever introduced to electrostim was when I tweaked my back doing a squat or a deadlift exercise. I don't remember exactly which one, around the year 2000. I go to the athletic trainers because we're working closely with the athletes at the time at the college, and they go, well, let's put your back on some electrostim and some ice. Fast forward about 2 sessions of that later, my back was 100% better, back to lifting at maximum capacity, and started to realize that maybe there is some use for this electrostimulation for not only pain management and injury reduction or healing, but maybe there's some in performance. So the first thing that we do when we dig into the research on electrostim is we notice that we see some research on it increasing strength. Now, this is interesting because a lot of the studies are showing increasing in strength after injuries, childbirth, or immobilization. But there's also been studies showing that it also increases normal subjects as well as high-level athletes. This got me really interested in using electrostimulation for my own progress, not only with the introduction of having small back pain and little tiny tweaks here and there, but now I was starting to realize maybe I could use electrostim as a way to increase maximal strength. And that's interesting because, a lot of times people, especially even today in the athletic community, usually don't get electrostim in high school, college, or professional sports unless a muscle is going through rehab. But there are some studies that show that it actually increases strength, especially with low and medium frequencies. I think that it's interesting to see that we don't see as much progress with electrostimulation when it's unaccompanied by actual physical training. So this means that although if we're bedridden or we're sick or injured, that electrostimulation may be helpful in increasing some strength gains, that if we're trying to use it for performance, we can't just use electrostimulation in and of itself. It has to be done with training. I think one of the other things that is often misguided and misunderstood is that electrostimulation can also help with re-education of muscle action. So after injuries or after some other kind of medical disorders, we can actually get muscles to function better. I started to play around a lot with this when my squat technique needed some help, and this was when I was about 19, 20. Louie's trying to teach me how to squat with a vertical shank, and at that time, I couldn't help but let my knees come forward. Fast forward to about 12 weeks of using moderate electrostimulation on my hamstrings, what I started to find is that I was actually able to use my hamstrings during a squat activity, and my shins became straighter and straighter and straighter. Now, this is interesting because you see a lot of squat studies and you see a lot of things and change in vertical shank, and it doesn't show a lot of different motor pattern recruitment changes. But I think that the electrostimulation on the hamstrings really started to help me learn how to squat better. And this is proven here in this particular setting of this book. But the point being is that you can, if you have weak muscle groups, help to innervate those tissues better with electrostimulation. The other thing that I find interesting with electrostimulation is that we can also see an increase in speed of contraction. So if we learn or utilize long-term high frequency, which is more than 40 hertz, we can improve reaction time and decrease time to peak tension. So for those of you that are trying to increase maximal power output, i.e. sprinters, jumpers, Olympic lifters, anything of that nature, electrostimulation has been proven to show that you can increase the the peak tension of fast twitch fibers and decrease the time to that peak tension. This is super important for utilization of the dynamic effort method and rate of force, which hopefully some of your training has utilized in its cycle. So for instance, in our training, both in the apps and in the manuals, every 72 hours we do a dynamic effort day for rate of force development, which is secondarily a way to train to get stronger. If we use electrostimulation, we can help improve this situation at least a decent amount. So kind of back to my original introduction to electrostim from injury, what we start to find is that it's awesome at relieving pain, and it's a provision for effective massage. So the pumping mechanism actually helps the lymphatic system relieve toxins. It does a lot of other great things in the lymphatic system, which helps tense and fatigued tissues recover faster. And from my personal opinion, I saw it relieve a lot of pain. Now, usually frequencies between 1 and 150 hertz with a definite muscle contraction, you want to use high intensity, small bursts. But in reality, relief of pain is probably one of the major reasons that a lot of people will use electrostim. But if it's proven just as effective as massage, then it probably does have a particular place in your training long term. I think you can get a TENS unit for like $100. What I also find interesting is that electrostimulation can also help in the recruitment of different muscle fibers. So largest diameter fiber axons actually are recruited first, which is interesting because that's not how your natural motor patterns work. So under natural order of recruitment, these larger axons are difficult to activate under normal training conditions. So ES may play a crucial role and supplementary role in this respect. So if we know that electrostimulation may be able to innervate more tissue, we might possibly be looking into more satellite cell, and we might be looking into more hyperplasia with electrostimulation if we're activating fibers that may be difficult to activate voluntarily. This also causes a lot of other major thought processes that we could utilize in electrostim. So again, as you can see, there is a lot of different positives that may come from using electrostimulation, and why I've used it for the last 10 years, but I've never really shared a lot of it. A lot of it was just if I felt muscles weren't activating correctly or I was having an issue with technique. That later on down in my career, I used it on tricep work for the bench press. I would do it 6 hours post bench press training and tricep isolated training, and I was mostly using it for recovery. But as I started to notice that I was using this electrostimulation for recovery, 72 hours later when I was training again, it seemed like that muscle had just a way hotter spark plug to it. And again, I think some of this research is kind of proving that that was correct. So I hope this video was really interesting for you. I know a lot of people don't use electrostim, but I think that some of this stuff that I'm talking to you guys about now may reopen your mind into utilizing electrostimulation in your training and getting you to realize that there's more modalities than just working out themselves. I think electrostimulation can play a crucial role in your training and your capacity to get better. Like we said, as a small revision, we've seen it activate tissue that may be hard to activate normally. We've seen it have a very good effect similar to massage. We've seen it reduce pain. We've seen it re-educate muscle action. We've seen it do a lot of different stuff. We've seen it also increase the speed of contraction, which is ultimately insanely important for sport. So this is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and opened up some new doors for you and hopefully gets you training a little bit smarter and a little bit better. So please visit winningstrength.com, check out our manuals, check out our online coaching, and most importantly, just start checking out how to train smarter. Talk to you guys soon.